I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, good morning. Roll call. We have Commissioner Denny, Commissioner Becker, Commissioner Byer, Commissioner Noska, and Commissioner Newman present, along with Auditor Treasurer Gaida and Coordinator Pelzer. The county attorney has not arrived yet. I'm hoping he'll be here today. Is there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have one amendment to add. On 9.3, please add Health and Human Services Morrison contract for childcare.
Okay, you've heard the request on the change on the agenda. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Noska?
Yep.
And I got to get used to it. I'm going to welcome Commissioner Byers here. So it's been a while since I had somebody sitting next to me. It's been 7 months, so welcome. Okay, is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Consent.
Consent items today are the meeting minute approval for November 21st, 2023, gambling permit for NWTF Stratton Blackbirds 2/3/24, gambling permit Sauk Valley Cobblers 2/24/24, accept the retirement of Carl Pong, assistant to the engineer, hire Public Works accountant Candace Parrish, start date 12/21/2023, hire Ross Bolin, part-time correctional officer, start date to be determined.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion.
Just a comment. Do we have a date for Carl's?
I can go to the board action.
It was
1/31 to
yeah.
1/21/34,
Okay.
or 24, excuse me.
21?
January 31st of
31st, okay.
2024.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Auditor Treasurer.
Today I have before you the auditor warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the November 2023 auditor warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $2,884,498.13.
Okay. Heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Byers,
Yes.
Commissioner Noska,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item I have would be the commissioner warrants. Again, background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $166,476.66.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Noska. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Noska,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Byers,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item we have then is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $41,202.23.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Byers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Yep. This is going to be interesting, BB and BB. So I'm going to have to put a BBY or something. Okay. Okay. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Byers,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Nasca,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
The next item I have then is the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants, background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $40,913.60.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Ooh, Tim Denny, Commissioner Denny, and
Second.
Commissioner Nasca.
Yes.
Got it. All right. Discussion. If none, roll call.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Nasca,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Byers,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
Thank you. The last item I have then today is to reschedule the December 26, 2023 board meeting. A little bit of background. At the January 3rd, 2023 board meeting, the board meeting dates schedules were adopted by Board Action 20230103-12. As a result of this official action, the year-end board meeting was scheduled for December 26, 2023. A request to discuss and potentially move this year-end board meeting to December 28th, 2023 has been proposed. Your options are to approve to the reschedule of this meeting or to make no change and leave as is. What is your recommendation? We have nothing in the recommendation line. We're looking for the board to give us that recommendation.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
Well, you need a motion. You need to, you're stating that you're moving this?
Yes.
Okay, then we need to put that the motion will be to reschedule the December 26, 2023 board meeting, 9 a.m.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to reschedule the December 26th meeting to December 28th, which would be the last board meeting of the year,
Or option one. Perfect.
or option one, correct.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second option one.
Second by Nasca. Discussion. When we reschedule our meetings at the beginning of the year, we just got to pay a little closer attention to how far they are. It's like, man, day after Christmas, it's like, really? Oops. So, all right. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right.
The next item we have then would be the fiscal year 2024 funding reduction to the new Long Prairie Shop Savings Account. Background, during the preparation of the county's fiscal year 2024 budget, it was determined that the reduction of the required annual savings deposit for the new Long Prairie Shop Savings Account would be in the best interest of the county to reduce the overall financial impact to the county's local levy. Your options are to adopt the resolution for fiscal year 2024, funding reduction to the new Long Prairie Savings Shop account, or option 2, do not adopt the attached resolution. And the recommendation is to adopt the resolution for fiscal year 2024, funding reduction to the new Long Prairie Shop Savings account. And we do have the board action attached.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the resolution.
All right. Heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
Yes, I would make that motion, being that I brought it up during our finance meetings, is to, with option 1, to the reduction of the 2024 funding into the savings account for the Long Prairie shop.
Okay. Motion by Becker. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Public Works.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Lauren.
So we have 5 items on the agenda, and I guess with permission of the board, item number 3 is a resolution that we have to discussion with Birchdale Township. Would that be okay if I move that to the last item, so then we can bring them up and do it as one? Is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay, great, thank you. So our first item on the agenda is a final payment authorization for a 2023 gravel surfacing contract. And this was a contract with Sanders Construction out of Randall, Minnesota. They did a great job for us. with the work was completed on County Road 60, 87, 95, and 97. So our two options are to approve the attached resolution or do not approve the attached resolution. And our recommendation is approve the attached resolution, making final payment of $16,984.91 to Sanders Construction.
Okay. Heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Our next item on the agenda is our annual request to approve our bridge priority replacement list. And if we could scroll down to the list here below, right there. One more,
Okay.
right there. This is the list of all the bridges we have that are kind of on our watch list for replacement. All the bridges that we look at are bridges located on the county road system, the city street system, and the township system. And they're broken up into basically categories. The ones on the top, the 2024, we know these are programmed. We're aggressively looking for funding. Some of them have been funded. We're putting plans together, getting permits, and they'll be ready to go for construction next year. After that, we're in design with County Road 16, the next one down. And then in the future, we're looking at doing projects in the bridge in County Road 79, just north of 62 there. And future bridges that are not on the list, but on our watch list for future projects are bridges on County Road 10 and County Road 18. Down below that, we have a number of bridges listed on the township road system that are still in good shape, but are still on our watch list as far as potentially, if they get to a certain point, we'll have to aggressively look for funding and get those replaced. So this is a priority list that we put together every year, approved by the board, so we can add that to our 5-year plan, and then we submit that to the state, and they can use that as they lobby to the legislature to help fund the bridge bonding program through the bonding bill that's passed on a every other year basis. So with that, our options are to approve the attached resolution or not, and our recommendation is approve the attached resolution and list for the bridge replacement program.
Okay. Heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Excellent. So as we discussed before, we'll be delaying item 3, 7.3. We'll be moving on to 7.4, which is a 2023 budget rollover request. This is the time of year when we start looking at expenses for the year and what needs to be rolled over to the next fiscal year. I sent this information to our auditor treasurer's office. They reviewed it and kind of preliminary approved that it's in good condition. And our first request is the attached budget request form requesting to roll over retiree severance pay for the amount of $81,730.08 from fiscal year 2023 to 2024. The background with this is we anticipated 3 retirements this year. 1 occurred. As you can see, 1 delayed till next year. So basically, the expenses is going to be this year, it's going to be next year, thus rolling the expense from 2023 to 2024 when it'll get paid out. Carl's, absolutely. And then we have another one potentially for next year. So with that, our options to approve or not approve the budget request form. Our recommendation is to approve the budget request form, rolling over that money to fiscal year 2024.
Okay. Heard the request. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to roll over the funds till 2024.
Okay. Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
All right, our other item on the agenda is a budget request rollover, a very similar one. This was their capital expenditures being our heavy equipment and trucks. Now that we live in a post-pandemic or post-COVID world, back in the day, we used to order equipment, and within 2 to 3 months, they'd produce it and deliver it. Now you order it, you sit and wait for a year, 2 years, whatever. So managing that system becomes very cumbersome. Thus, we have to order the equipment 1 year, budget for 1 year, but roll the expense over to the following year when it actually gets paid. So that's exactly what we're showing here. So our recommendation is approve the attached budget request form, rolling over $300,946.71 from fiscal year 2023 to fiscal year 2024.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
All right, our next item on the agenda, I'm going to invite our friends up from Birchdale Township. Come on up
Oh,
to the hot seat.
Arnie, Larry, and Jackie.
Yeah, I'll let you guys officially introduce yourself to the board.
Arnie Bearscheit, Supervisor for Birchdale Township.
Hi, my name is Jackie Bauer, and I'm the clerk for Birchdale Township.
Larry Beavis, Supervisor for Birchdale Township.
Welcome.
So this is a very similar item that we've recently approved with the city of Long Prairie. I think it was at the last board meeting. It is the same program. A part of that program is the local road improvement program. In the local road improvement programs, counties, cities, and townships can apply for funding to help upgrade roads. So with that, as part of that program, the city, or the township in this case, has to get sponsorship from the stated agency, which would be us. If they're successful in obtaining the money, we'd act as their fiscal sponsor. So with that, they put together the attached resolution and map for consideration. But at this point in time, I'm gonna give it over to Jackie. I guess
All
you're
right.
gonna be the spokesperson.
I think so.
Kind of discuss the project and what they're looking at doing, and then we'll get into the final parts at the end here.
All right, thank you, Lauren. So what we're looking at is Alcott Drive, located in Birchdale Township. And the Alcott Drive project aims to enhance transportation infrastructure in Birchdale Township, specifically addressing the needs of Alcott Drive. This road is a crucial route that provides access to Sauk Lake, as well as various key destinations. There's a Twin Lake waterfall production area near the road, as well as a historical marker, the Viking Altar Rock. And Lauren and our supervisors can probably speak a little bit more to some of the repair, but we're looking at a road resurfacing, reclamation of the road, making sure that the road is safe for those that travel, and the overall enhancement of the road experience, as well as any necessary infrastructure improvements that would be identified during the project. This is going to improve the road safety of Alcott Drive, again, give enhanced access to Sauk Lake and recreational areas in that near the road, and the preservation of the surrounding land. We do have a letter of support from Senator Paul Yuki, also a letter of support from Representative Danny Nadeau, who's from Hennepin County and happened to be on a grants project team that I was on earlier this year, and I had expressed some of our interest in pursuing the LRIP grant. Also, we have Department of Natural Resources information that will be included for the waterfall area and Sauk Lake. And then we have traffic count data from the Minnesota Department of Transportation. So as far as the actual specific road work and construction, maybe the rest of our group here can speak to that a little bit more. You wanna talk?
Yeah, we sit there and went, with Lauren and I, and Larry, we went this spring and drove the whole road, and there's quite a few bad spots that are really boiling up and over, and we were gonna try to get those bad spots taken care of, but I guess the weather didn't cooperate and nobody showed up, so they did a bore sample some of the places that they went down quite a ways, and it seemed like the road's good, but it all broke up, so it's gonna have to be dug up and replaced, and there's a few culverts that have to be done and whatever, so it's getting high time to get it done.
And so Lauren's staff was gracious to come out and do an estimate for us earlier this year. And so we're looking at approximately a request for the grant of about $1 million to do the work.
So I think that's a critical piece for this important road in Todd County. $1 million project for a township no matter the township, is a big dollar item. So I think it'd be great if we could help them out and act as their fiscal sponsor and support their application for this money. That's a great area, not a great homes, great to drive that route, and would love to have them be successful. And if and when they do get that success, we'd work with them to deliver a great project back to Todd County.
I have talked to some of the people that live on Alcott, and the first thing they do is ask, when are you gonna fix it? That we have tried fixing it before. Ernie and I have gone out there with asphalt patching, and that seems to last maybe 6 weeks at the most. And again, they stop me and say, when are you gonna get this fixed? This is seems to be more of a main thoroughfare now than it used to be. And the traffic is heavier. I know we've had complaints about you know, semis and things going over there, you know, with heavy loads and tearing up the roads.
And then finally, we, about 3 years ago, we began to incrementally raise our levy just to make sure that we were planning for projects like this. But as Lauren said, just the dollar amount on this project, it is a lot, and timeliness is kind of why we're pursuing the grant now. But we are planning for future as we kind of build our coffers for that based on the raising of the levy.
Okay. Anything else?
Is there anything else?
No. Do you have any
Okay.
questions for us, or?
Okay, I'm gonna ask for a motion on this. Is there a motion,
What is
please?
it, Lauren, 4 miles? It's right around
Yeah.
4 miles long.
Yeah, all right.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution supporting Birchdale Township's request.
Okay, thank you on that. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Denny. Motion by Nazca, second by Denny. Discussion with the board.
I was going to ask how many miles, and they just said it was 4. Yeah.
And we did hear from one of our constituents down there that at our Truth and Taxation meeting about Alcott, that it was in rough shape. So he did express his concern on that, so thank you guys for that. So any other discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
They should get Mike's vote on that, too. They should get Mike's support on that.
Yeah, little stuff.
We should, yeah.
Say, Jackie,
Yeah.
have you talked to Representative Weiner on that?
I reached out to him, but he has not responded back to me.
Okay, I'll try to address it and have him
Okay.
get a hold of you.
And I can draft something for him like I did for the other representatives.
Okay.
But the deadline is tomorrow at 4 o'clock, so I'm under a time crunch. But if, yes, anything you can do would be great.
Okay,
So,
I'll work on that.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Barb.
Yeah.
Planning and zoning. Adam,
Alrighty.
good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Just a single item today, the Sauk River Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan Biennial Work Plan. The biennial work plan for the Sauk River Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan has been reviewed and approved by the Policy Committee, and this is the second biennium of funding for the watershed. Attached in the packet is the work plan detailing the work to be accomplished. The options are to approve the work plan or do not approve the work plan. And the recommendation is to adopt the resolution and approve the fiscal year 24-25 Sauk River Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan work plan. In the work plan and the resolution are in the packet there. If you scroll down, you can see the total dollar amount. We are getting additional funding compared to our first biennium. All watersheds should be receiving that, including Sauk River. So there's I believe it's over $1 million this next time around.
So how many of the projects do we have in Todd?
If you go, it's probably a really large document, so it'd be tough to see, but if you scroll to the left side of the document, you can see the projects. I think that's in the,
Anywhere close?
it might be in a separate document yet. think there was 2 that I attached there.
Sorry.
Here we go. So if you go up just a little bit, the 3rd or 4th column there is the proposing entity. And as you scroll down, you can see the city of St. Cloud, Stearns County, Todd County, Douglas, a little bit of Pope are all part of this. And we have a number of projects, but they're not in order in there. They're scattered throughout. So it's a little tough to
Here's
add.
the
But
top.
there's one, that's for just technical and engineering. So we can pay for our engineering services to design the projects.
Here's one.
Project on Ashley Creek, one right below there. Some field erosion projects. I think there's a whole bunch more. There's non-structural practices, that was cover crops and reduce tillage, those sort of things. Gully project, repairing lakeshore restorations on Lake Osakis, and that's the end of it.
Okay. All right, you heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
I have to get back to it.
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion.
Did Sauk River Watershed ever pick up our Long Lake? What's happening with that?
Oh, well, I don't believe they did, but that'd be unrelated to the comprehensive watershed. This is Bowser funding that follows the clean water guidelines, so high water project cannot be funded through this particular funding.
My other question would be with the Miller Bay sediment ponds over on Lake Osakis, and they haven't absolutely did nothing over there, the watershed.
Yeah, they were waiting on some Army Corps of Engineers samples and doing the analysis and that sort of stuff, which, yeah, I think you're not actually fixing an issue, but they're accumulating information to the best of my knowledge at this point yet to understand it.
Well, they got the funding from the Army Corps according to Congresswoman Fishbach's office. Okay, but the Sauk River Watershed's got to come up with $200,000 and some for matching grant.
Sure.
And I don't know if they're gonna try to go through Lessard Sam's or, you know, the other one, to try to find the funding, so. But, that's where it's sitting, and then the project could take up to the year 2025, the feasibility study, and that's like, that's a long time away,
That's a long time out.
yeah. So anyways, that's my beef for today.
Sure. Are you looking for more updates on that sort of thing? Because we can get it and come to a work session or something if anybody's interested in
Okay,
a brief update on that. Just let me know and I can get that put together.
all right. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Health and Human Services.
Morning, Mr. Chair,
Morning.
Commissioners.
Morning.
All right, our first board action form here in front of you to present is the MFIP Biennial Service Agreement for 2024-2025. Some background, counties are required to have a biennial service agreement approved by the Minnesota Department of Human Services, to receive consolidated funds for the Minnesota Family Investment Program, also known as MFIP. The purpose of the biennial service agreement is to provide DHS with the information about services and strategies intended to meet program measures with the goal of increasing the economic stability of low-income families using the program called MFIP. Your options are to approve the 2024-2025 MFIP biennial service agreement for the program administration by Todd County, or to not approve. It is our recommendation that you go ahead and approve the 2024-2025 MFIP biennial service agreement for the program administration by Todd County.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
I have motion to approve the 2024-25 service agreement.
Okay, motion by Byers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a state plan that we have to submit every 2 years, so
Okay,
'tis that time.
okay.
Thanks for doing that, Stephen.
Thank you.
All right, we have Derek and John to come up. John is fresh from vacation, so we're glad to have him back, so we're ready to get going here. So we have a request to hire a social worker. The purpose of the request is for children's mental health, targeted case management, to improve the behavioral functioning and reduce risk out-of-home placement for identified children with severe emotional disturbances. At the January 2nd, 2019 board meeting, it was approved to provide the targeted case management of children's mental health services in-house using a phased-in approach. Due to the demand and high caseloads, there is a need to hire an additional social worker to provide these services. Your options: to authorize hiring one social worker to provide children's mental health targeted case managed, or to not authorize. The recommendation is to authorize hiring one social worker to provide children's mental health targeted case management. We have this as a non-budgeted item, but it is a program that does pay for itself, and not only is it an opportunity to stay abreast of the kids that we have in our program, but also bring in a small amount of revenue to the county with the program.
Okay. You've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Noska. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Great, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I thank you for adding this as an addendum. This is a program that we did, our contract that we're working with Morrison County on a specific program. Some background: the Health and Human Services Department is interested in contracting with Morrison County to provide services to clients for their DHS, which is the Department of Human Services state-mandated child care assistance program. Morrison County is interested in providing this service for our agency. The proposed contract is attached. It has been reviewed by John Lindeman, the county attorney, and kind of given the thumbs up. Options are to approve the attached child care assistance program services contract with Morrison County Human Services, or to not approve. It's our recommendation to go ahead and approve the child care assistance services contract with Morrison County. We have this, I'm sorry, we have this as a budgeted, as we had a staff member here providing the services, and there are funds that come from the state to help aid with this program. Our numbers are low, unfortunately, but Morrison does have the capacity to do this and give this contract a try.
Is that the numbers are low, so it doesn't really benefit to have that staff person, so you're gonna outsource it?
Right, we're gonna outsource it because we're workforce issues that have come along, workforce.
Thank you.
So it's really about staffing at this time, and what Morrison has given us kind of a negotiable deal to do that. So it's really cost prohibitive for us to move forward with the contract.
Mr. Chair, Jackie, I see it's here for 6 months. Negotiable, or?
We're hoping once they have that, right, we want to just review those contracts that are new, and which is why we're bringing that to board as well, but they have some workforce retirements that are going on over there to where they just want to be sure that they had the capacity with their new staff moving into those positions to be able to take on the contract as well.
Okay.
And it's probably somewhere in this contract, which is attached, I guess. Is it 6 months and then it's renegotiable, or is it renew automatically?
It would renew. What we did want is that contract to go out 2 years, which we typically do. So we'll review it in 6 months, and if they can't do that, then we're gonna have to come up with a different plan or bring it back in-house. So they have 90 days, so there's a 90-day out for them if they,
The terms and the financial impact will be reviewed. They're not set, but they're set for this 6 months, but that's it. After that 6 months, we'll have to re-look at all those things?
It has 6 months are in the contract that there will be a review, and then it can automatically renew for 6-month consecutive terms up until December 31st of 2025. So if they chose to continue, we would not need to do a new contract until December 31 of 25.
Thank you.
if that answers.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
It was really our intent to give them an out if it doesn't fit for them, is really what our intent was. We didn't want to pigeonhole them into a contract without being, we were very grateful for them to consider this and take this on at the time, so.
Mr. Chair, Jackie, would that require us to hire another person, or where are we sitting? Is it, or do we have room for expansion that could be absorbed, or?
That was kind of what the
are we-
concern was today. It was gonna be hard to take on that program because of some of the retirements we're seeing and some of the positioning with promotions, and that it was an opportunity for us not have to come back to board and take that into consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, standing reports. Under treasurer.
Just a couple of reminders. Well, I attended AMC earlier this week, which was a good conference. A lot of good speakers. And then December 11th through the next week through the 14th, auditors will be on site to do our preliminary audit. They'll be doing field work. They may reach out to one of you commissioners, so you have to be ready and present to talk to them, because they'll call one of you. And they don't tell me who they call, so, and you guys know that from past. So if I give you a call, you need to get over here and visit with them. They talk to you about potential fraud.
Any concerns?
Any concerns you have, yes. December 19th is the work session that we will be presenting the committee list. I ask you to look at that now and be prepared. If you don't have a list, you can go out to the website, or you can stop in my office and we'll print one out. We need to have good discussions on what committees that you do want to be on, what ones you can attend, can't attend. There's been a lot of discussion on this year, so I want you to be prepared on the 19th at the work session to have a good, healthy discussion on those committees. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, county attorney's not here. County coordinator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, this is a bad mic. Thank you. Okay, I'll try that again. So just a recap from the last meeting on November 21st, I had a Sourcewell Board of Directors meeting. On the 27th, a Wellness Committee meeting. On the 28th, a Personnel Committee meeting, and then the TNT meeting in the evening. And also some interviews that day. On the 29th, we had an internal discussion regarding the Minnesota statewide affordable housing aid. So you'll hear more about that at the work session. On the 29th, we had an internal land offices meeting, and the 30th, more interviews, and a finance committee meeting, and on the 5th, more interviews. Just as a reminder for the board, also on December 19th, we do have a broadband coalition meeting that is for all the townships and the cities, to just hear more about our efforts on supporting broadband and getting more access to broadband here in Todd County. That's scheduled to start at 11. So I'm not quite sure how long the work session will go, but hopefully some board members will be able to attend that and just have some good conversation with cities and townships. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Denny?
The only one I have some to report on was our Great River Regional Library one. We made the Star Tribune for our policy change, and I don't know where we stand on cataloging some of these questionable books, but we had a lot of good open forums the last couple months, but ultimately we had to make a few changes, so that was it.
Okay. Commissioner Becker?
Well, I attended the AMC from Sunday through yesterday. Went to some very good sessions, and some of the sessions weren't maybe as good as past years, but one of them, the speakers we had was Gordon Graham, and Your Black Swan is Someone Else's Gray Rhino, which is very interesting topic, how it switches from someone's, black swan to the gray rhino. The other one that I attended, and I think Commissioner Newman and I both attended, was the chair and vice chair of a county board. And it talked to us a lot about commitment and what it takes to be a commissioner. So I thought it was a very good program. And I know next week we have department heads and policy and all of that's coming up next week, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Byers. Go ahead. You got?
Yeah.
Go ahead and give a report.
Okay, well, I was fortunate enough to attend the AMC conference also with Commissioner Newman, Commissioner Becker. The networking was amazing, and a lot of discussion about future committee meetings, which I'm thinking there'll be a assignment coming soon here. I attended a few work sessions too. One of them was about dental medical assistants in counties that don't have MA clinics, which was interesting. And another one on emotional intelligence, being able to respond in a patient, calm manner in these various committees and various meetings. So I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to it again next year. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Noska.
Yeah, I guess there's been a lot of meetings since our last one, but the one that stands out to me the most that I'd like to report on is we did an interview last week for Todd County Development Corporation for Rick Utek's position for when he retires early next year. We feel we've got our candidate chosen and we're ready to make an offer today. So I'll report back on that as soon as things go a little further.
Okay. All right, thanks. All right, I had Sauk River Watershed meeting on the 21st. On the 27th, I had my counties providing technology in Morris, and I'm happy to report Gwen is back. Gwen had been with the outfit before we bought it out, and she's very sharp, very good. And my confidence level now is back up here with CPT, so I'm just glad she's back. We're still with the North Dakota counties. Everything is moving along pretty good there. On the 28th, we had our Truth and Taxation meeting. I want to also thank the staff for attending. We only had a few individuals come in, and it's so hard when you get the valuation notices just right before this Truth and Taxation meeting, because it's the first thing that they look at and the first thing they want to talk about. So we had a personnel meeting after that, or before that. So, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we were down at AMC with Commissioner Byers, Commissioner Becker, Auditor Treasurer Gaida, Kathy Langer, Sarah, what's Sarah's last name? Okay, thank you. And Jagiak. So it was really good. On Sunday night, we had our MRC meeting. The thing I want to express to my fellow commissioners is this is a very important committee for us to attend. We pay pretty good money to be a member of this organization. This is our lobbying group for, I don't know, what is it, 30-some counties? It's a pile.
Yep.
So we need to address that when we do our committee assignments, whether we put all 5 of us down as alternates, and that way if one of us can't make it, at least we can attend it and have a voice for Todd County. And we need to have that voice at that committee. The other one that I was alternate, they still had Commissioner Erickson down as the primary, was MCIT. I just want to congratulate our staff as we did make a workers' compensation honor roll. So Todd County got that, and also Todd Wadena Community Corrections also achieved the compensation honor roll. And then when it comes to property and casualty honor roll, the Todd County Agricultural Society made it, along with the Todd County Water and Soil Conservation District. So some of the committees I attended were really interesting. I can share you, and this is my personal thought, I thought the governor got kind of a cool reception when he got done speaking. I think, you know, the stuff that was dumped on us counties we're concerned about. But I went to the chair, vice chair. The other one I attended was Stearns County put it on, and I got to do a little bit more research on that, but it was through corrections and Health and Human Services where they split it up, and they're trying to get the kids more, I say, involved. They had one individual who was 16 that was, nobody could handle her. I mean, she was uncontrollable. That's how he put it. She was just uncontrollable. And they finally asked her, what's wrong? What is your, and she said, I've never had my nails done. I've never had my hair done. I've never had this. And she started explaining how her childhood was. And they took it from there and started changing her life. She finished high school. She's now got 2 part-time jobs and going to school. So it was just, if we can do that or copy that a little bit with our younger individuals, I think that'd be great. But I think it was a good model. They're still learning, and they express that a lot. It's a learning everyday thing. And I was surprised that Stearns County never had a car fleet. So the individuals would go and pick these children and stuff up, and if they threw up in the car, they had to clean up themselves. So they did get a car fleet. They got bigger cars because some of the families were 7 to 9 kids. So that one caught my attention. So otherwise, I thought it was a good conference. What else I didn't notice? I was shocked that we did not have a Christmas tree down there, and the county choir must have been dismantled because normally we had a county choir down there. So, but otherwise, it was a good conference. And again, our trip home, I'm just thankful that Commissioner Becker, myself, and our treasurer are okay. So that's all I have. And with that, we will recess until the 19th of December. And we'll start the work session about 5:02, okay? Thank you.
She was expected to be here to have this discussion from HRA, and we were expecting Rick Utek as well. So they are not here, but we will walk through the presentation. And Jackie, if I could have you maybe come up and just in case there's some additional information we want to share. So I'm here today to just share with you some information about the statewide affordable housing aid that is coming to all counties, including Todd County, for 2023 and 2024. So statewide affordable housing aid was authorized through the Chapter 64 of the 2023 session law, and it helps with local governments developing and preserving affordable housing and helping families from losing their housing and those who are experiencing homelessness. So the aid begins in 2023. And just for reference, the amount that is slotted for Todd County for this year, we will get $99,971, and that is expected on December 26th. And then for 2024, we have the exact same amount coming, but they're going to split it into two payments, one on July 20th and the other one again on December 26th of 2024. So that box is really nice and annoying.
I wonder if I can move it for you.
Okay. So use of aid, that's what it says up on the top. So the funds have to be spent on qualifying projects, and funds will be considered spent under two conditions. So if a county receiving the funds is experiencing some difficulties in expending the funds, maybe due to supply chain issues or contracting issues, as long as they have projects that are scheduled, if they miss that deadline, the funds will still be considered spent by the county. You also can have the funds considered spent if they are put into a local housing trust fund. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But the deadline for spending those funds is December 31st of the fourth year after the aid was received. So we're going to want to pay attention to those deadlines as funds become available, maybe even in the future. But for now, we know we're dealing with 23 and 24. So there's a lot of different qualifying projects. There's emergency rental assistance. There's financial support to nonprofits who are providing housing. There's projects designed for construction, acquisition, rehabilitation, demolition, just a lot of different things that this funding can be used for. And then there's some prioritization of the projects outlined within the law, and the priority should be to reduce disparities in home ownership, reduce housing cost burden, improve habitability of homes, create accessible housing, and create more energy or water efficient homes. There's also income guidelines that go along with this, as you can see on the screen. So I'm not going to read every bit of this in detail, but so with that, we did have a meeting, an internal, very informal meeting with, we met with Kim Wallace from HRA. We had Rick Utek involved from Economic Development, Commissioner Noska, and Jackie Ock, and also we had Jolene from the Auditor's Office, just to kind of talk about how do we want to bring this forward to talk about these funds and what can we actually do with them. And Kim Wallace was pretty knowledgeable on the local housing trust fund process, and through her regional meetings, they talk about these funds quite a bit. There are counties who have received funds for housing and have already had these local housing trust funds set up. I believe there's 7 counties in the state of Minnesota who have these funds set up, and then 13 cities that have the fund set up as well. But as these funds are being rolled out to counties, they're talking about these things at their boards meetings and trying to determine what should they actually do. And many counties are going the route of this exact thing, this local housing trust fund. So just a little bit by definition in the statute, a local housing trust fund means a fund established by a local government with one or more dedicated sources of public revenue for housing. So with this local housing trust fund, if this is established by the county board could decide to allocate funds to this, maybe appropriate funds, so then we can have a bigger pot to deal with versus just this very small amount that's coming. There can be maybe additional funds that come from the state or the federal government that can be put into their donations, many different things. So in order to establish a local housing trust fund, it's done by ordinance. So we have to establish an ordinance, and talk about what kind of projects will be funded, who is the population that we will be serving, and how will the funds be distributed, and then who's going to administer the funds, what's the actual decision-making structure, and then how much county oversight will there be with this trust fund. So I just gave you like a really quick crash course in housing trust fund, but so I guess the steps for us are, if the board wants to move forward with setting up a local housing trust fund, the first thing that we need to do is actually create that draft ordinance. And through that process, as you know, we would have a series of public hearings that have to take place. Douglas County is going through this process right now, and they are actually going to be potentially approving their ordinance at the December 19th meeting. So I've reached out to the coordinator over there, and she's provided me with some of their information, so it seems like a pretty streamlined process. It's just really understanding what that housing trust fund can do for us, and if that's the direction the board wants to go with these funds that we're expecting. And then also I should just add, it seemed appropriate to have just that really quick meeting of people who are involved in housing. The board might want to take a more formal approach in developing an actual committee around this, so that might just be something you want to think about.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Chris, do they have any major projects or anything they're looking into? I know a few years ago they bought that housing unit in Bertha. I mean, are they looking at, and where are they looking for doing projects at?
Yeah, Kim did not have any like major project that they were looking at. She really was talking about just the need for housing, need for, excuse me, affordable housing, rental assistance. I mean, she talked just about the struggles of finding affordable rental properties even. And Commissioner Noska, anything that you can remember from that meeting that she specifically addressed?
Nothing that you haven't really said right now. I think a lot of it was just about trying to find the right use for the money, and that's why the trust fund is there, so we can actually hold it, and then we can decide later on where it would end up.
It's really, I mean, it's great that we're getting this money from the state, and maybe the state will continue to provide these funds. Maybe that's a priority that we want to look at when we have our discussions with the legislators. But it's not a lot of money.
No, it's
not. It's not a lot that you can like, oh, we're gonna put up a complex. It's just not. So hopefully down the road, there are some matching funds that come through state and federal, and maybe even private businesses who want to see housing for their employees. But she did not have anything specific.
Do we have any stats, like in Todd County, as far as what percentage of our residents are even requesting or are on this assistance, either our current assistance programs?
Commissioner Byers, good question. We do have that data, and I believe Kim Wallace provided that when she gave her update. One of the reasons why Jackie has been involved is because Health and Human Services also receive funds for homeless prevention, and it's really around youth homeless prevention. So Jackie's involvement is there because like we're trying to see, we don't want to overlap what we're doing, and we want to really see where can we put the funds to their best use. But Jackie, you had a really good idea, like is there a way to pair those funds?
That's what we talked with Kim. It's just saying we just don't want to overlap it and make sure that we don't have duplicity among both funding streams, and make sure that money gets out equitably to everybody that really truly has a need with whatever criteria or is set forth in the ordinance with the applications, so.
So this fund could be either set up in Health and Human Services, or would it be the Auditor Treasurer's Office?
It really would be the Auditor Treasurer's Office, but if you would set up a local housing trust fund, I'm not quite sure how that process goes. And that's why we actually had the Auditor's Office involved, because if we're gonna be receiving these funds and we're gonna set up some type of trust fund, how does that go?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the amount and the administration of it, the setup of the fund, the management of it then on a daily basis by Kim or whoever it is. I mean, if it was $791,000, I'd probably be, you know, jumping 91,000 just in my initial thought is. I mean, obviously we'd love to have as much grant money as we can, but the cost analysis has got to make sense in my mind.
So the funds will be coming, regardless of what we do, they're coming. And 10% of that total can be used for administrative costs. So if Kim Wallace is the administrator of these funds through a housing trust fund, she would be allowed to use 10% of that total just for her administrative fees of it.
And that's very typical, to have somebody manage
Excuse me,
it.
can that,
Small, and it makes the bigger pot even smaller.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, let's say, okay, 91 grand, right? 10%'s 9,000. You're down to 80,000 for rental assistance. I mean, a rental, 2 or 3 bedroom house in anywhere in Todd County is approaching $1,000 a month. You're probably looking at funding maybe 12,000. You're looking at 6, 7 houses that you'd fund.
yeah. Chris, can that be used for repair?
It does allow that, I believe.
You know, because I'm looking at, 'cause we have 2 in Burrillville. Do we have 1 or 2 in Bertha? I know
One.
they've got 1 for sure.
They've got one for sure in Bertha.
Okay. Can it be used for repair of those buildings?
It addresses, like for energy efficiency, so that is one thing that it does speak to.
But that would be owned homes, correct?
Right.
Like people's homes, not necessarily our facilities that Kim manages.
Right.
The HRA is a different program
Yeah,
because that
it's
runs through
completely
our
different.
office. So I do not
This is
believe that
It would
this,
be a totally different, okay.
this
that's
cannot
right, I guess.
intertwine.
And I think the rental, the
Yeah.
rental assistance would be for someone that was maybe a displaced worker for a short period of time or something. Things like that like an emergency here, well, we can help you out type of thing, rather than we gotta give them a long time rental assistance. Just somebody that lost a job, got injured, things like that can't work. Maybe you could supplement them for a short period of time.
Chair, and those are the kind of
Thank
things
you.
that we do provide as well with some of that rental, that assistance that we have for that other pot of money, which is the homelessness prevention project. So we just wanted to make sure that, you know, we're not overlapping each project as we roll this out.
So let me ask, if an employer in Todd County lets somebody go after 1 week of work,
Catherine, do you want to come up? Yeah.
and then that person has nowhere to go, where do they go? And is this the type of gap
You're trying to
housing
fill?
that they're talking about? Because where do they go now? They go to St. Cloud or somewhere, or they go to
Are you talking about like a shelter or?
a homeless shelter?
Yeah, you'd have to
we
go to
don't-
Brainerd
yeah.
or St. Cloud. That's where the shelters are currently. So
I don't think that's what this is for.
No.
No, so currently our funding for the homeless prevention aid, which I help facilitate, which we just received this summer as well, it's similar to this, but it requires that they have a child. The focus of that funding is no child is homeless in Todd County. So we've used those funds very successfully, almost $30,000 in the last few months, to pay for people's rent for up to 3 months to keep them on, keep them in their home when they've come into a crisis. It helps with Stevens Unit 2 when emergency assistance isn't available, so it is nice gap funding. These funds could be used to help those who don't have children, because those funds are very specific. You have to have a child. So I do think there's opportunity, and I agree, Commissioner Byers, the amount of money, same thing, I think we need more HRA housing, but are these dollars going to do that? The other thing, and I've thought of with Adam, is our public health nuisance properties, and some of these properties that we need to bulldoze and demo and get rid of, that it may be, I saw demolition was involved. So that's just some ideas to think about, as well as other ways, because we have a lot of properties in Todd County that we sit and wait on for tax forfeiture, and we never clean them up, and they are huge eyesores. And you guys all get those complaints every day, just like I do, about why aren't we doing more about those. So I think we have some more options with this funding, but I will leave it at that.
We also, with these funds, you can use these as match funds when you are applying for grants. So you look at a small amount like 99,000, so 200,000 total. But what if that's a match that can become 400,000, which still isn't a lot, but if that pot continues to grow, it could be something.
So
Might be the seed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with this, this will come on the 19th, or do we want to have more discussion as far as creating a committee? It's up to the board. We're having a good discussion on this. So.
Yeah. I think it would be worth our while to like take some time to really have good discussion on how we bring this forward. But I wanted to make you aware, at least the funds are coming.
Okay.
And the dates on when they're coming and the options that you have. And then know that if we do decide to do the local housing trust fund, there is a process with creating that ordinance, and that's gonna take some time through public hearing.
Okay, and if other counties are doing this, it's easier for us not to reinvent the wheel.
Douglas County and Otter Tail County, Otter Tail might be done with their process, Douglas will be finishing theirs soon. So we have really good resources around us.
All right. Okay,
So more to come.
all right, thank you on that.
Yep,
And
thank
then
you.
we'll have further discussion later on this, but it was good discussion, you guys. We're gonna move along and go into the feedlot ordinance. Yeah, that's yours.
No, these are just my notes here. They already have the map, so whatever you need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Deja.
Thank you. Yep, for public record, I have to have it. Thank you.
Did you get these maps as a separate?
do. I
Okay,
have 'em if you-
excellent. Excellent.
Want me to bring them up? You just,
Yeah, might as well, because I don't,
which one do you want to start with?
um,
Homestead
Yes.
combined or
Yeah.
feedlot?
yeah, that one's good.
Okay.
All right. I believe I asked for this to be on the agenda. I had a constituent who was concerned. She built a new house. Valuations up there almost close to 400,000. Neighbor never had an established feedlot, and I think it was in the works, or he had asked to put a 50-animal feedlot 300 feet from her house. And it's like, okay, now I got some concerns. She did the research for me and come back and said, do you know Todd County doesn't have any protection for me? And it's like, you know, been commissioner quite a while. It's like, oh, we better dig into this. So where's our protection for the individuals that go out and buy that 10-acre chunk, put up a $500,000 to $1 million house? What's the guarantees that there's not gonna be a feedlot 300 feet from their house?
Answer?
You want to go first?
That's up to
Okay,
you.
so, Commissioner Newman, you're right, we don't have a setback for residences to feedlots in Todd County or a reciprocal setback to that. We have these situations pop up every now and again, and in many cases, they've resolved themselves through other setbacks, such as manure storage setbacks, which you have a 300-foot setback from property lines and other ways, but on these smaller sites, maybe there isn't any guarantee that that there's gonna be that protection. So Deja and I have put some information together, just present today to kind of get the conversation started on that. The feedlot ordinance was actually going to be the next ordinance we were gonna start digging into as soon as we got through the solar and the septic ordinance, so it's great timing to just have an all-encompassing conversation about our feedlot ordinance. So if you'd like us to, we'll just walk through what we have accumulated here to kind of kick things off. I guess first, thanks to Doug, he made us a few maps, so Denise has those up on the screen there. What you see first, with all those purple dots, we just used an average based on looking at some of our neighboring counties' ordinances and what their setbacks are, and created just a 1,000-foot setback around all these residences. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's gonna be, it's just as a starting point. So each of those is the best information we could put together to establish where a house was, and then put a 1,000-foot buffer around that house. It's not perfect, because we don't have a specific like dwelling layer in our GIS, but Doug was able to work with the data to create something we can work with here. The second one, if you wanna switch to the ones with all the orange dots. One more. That one is the inverse. So that is all of our registered feedlots in Todd County with a 1,000-foot buffer around that. It's important to remember that when we create a setback, that's then reciprocal. So just like you can't put a house or a feedlot within a certain distance of a dwelling, you can't put a new dwelling within a certain distance of established feedlot also. So those things are protected under that same setback. So this is the inverse of that. Just trying to get a general gauge of, you know, what that would look like, space available, different things like that. And then the last one, that's when you mesh the two, that's what it looks like. You'll see that you see a lot of purple and not as much orange. Reasoning for that is, one, that's the top layer. It was the residential ones and the feedlot layer is kind of behind it, but Deja had a good point this morning that the reason you really don't see a lot of orange dots is because a lot of those residential sites also have a feedlot on them already. So the same dot for both purposes. So just kind of get a general gauge of what the county would look like with a setback implemented. I do have some of our neighboring counties here, which I didn't include here, but Morrison has a setback of 660 feet, and then it's a 1/4 mile for hog sites for a setback. Stearns, that ranges between 500 to 700 feet. Douglas, their tier 1 and tier 2 have a 1,000-foot setback. Tier 3, which is then the larger ones, is a 1/2 mile. Wadena has a 660-foot. Cass, I could not find a setback. Otter Tail County doesn't have countywide zoning, so I couldn't find anything related to that. And Pope has a 1/4 mile for all new feedlots, and then it increases by 2 feet per animal unit beyond 300. So just to kind of give you a gauge of what our neighbors have.
Adam,
Right,
did
go
you
ahead.
look on that based on the zone? Was that based on zones?
Exactly, and that's why some of these have a range, because it might be different in different zones or different scenarios. So I just kind of put a general range, just so that it wasn't a long length of information, just to give a general gauge of what our neighbors have. My last few notes, again, remember that these are all reciprocal. The setbacks that we have, if we were to implement a setback, that would only be measured to registered feedlots, because we can't be aware that unregistered ones are out there, but we would then, in that process, allow a time period and establish an end date to register your feedlots, which they should be anyway. But there's some out there that haven't been registered, or they pop up as new ones. And just wanted to the final note was there were other things in our existing feedlot ordinance that we find as confusing, inconsistencies, different things. So in this process, we'd like to just open the whole book and correct those at the same time as we review the need for a residential setback. And I think Deja had some additional information to share.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, the answer is exactly what Adam said. There is no guarantee that a feedlot could not go into a property such as what you're talking about at this point. I thought it might be of interest to you. What are some current setbacks and protections that we do have in place? So wells are probably our biggest one, because most residences have a well. We'll just kind of start with private and irrigation wells within 100-foot circumference around that well. You can't have a feedlot, and that does mean across the street or wherever that other residence is. So 100 feet isn't very far. It is 200 feet for sensitive wells. For those people living in a community water supply, it's 1,000-foot circumference. There is some caveats off to the side here if you wanted to look at those. Licensed daycares, public or private schools, and that does exclude homeschooling. There's 1,000-foot setback. For DNR surface waters, no new feedlots within 300 feet of the river or stream, or 1,000 of the OHW of a lake. So if there's a property that's in there, they're kind of protected that way. Manure pits, for example, have to be 300 feet. This is due to lateral groundwater movement. Floodplains, no new feedlots and no expansion of existing feedlots. Property boundary, right now, we're just the same as for feedlot. Actually, the lot itself has no required setback, but if
remember a feedlot includes a barn, so you still have your 30 and 50 rear yard, side yard setbacks there. There's something of importance that I thought you should know. There's no setbacks for feedlot fences. There's none for stockpiles. The only thing they can't do is discharge across the property line. There's also no setback for corn silage pads. Roads, for setbacks for roads, for ag, shoreline, and residential, for township roads, it's either you can classify it as 68 feet from center or 35 from ROW, and federal and state increased to 50, and commercial zones 100 feet from ROW, any road. Some things as I think about having worked in the feedlot program and working with shoreland owners and residential owners and hearing these complaints a couple times a year, maybe one or two, it's important for us to review the primary uses of each zone. When we look at these setbacks, are we restricting or are we protecting the intended primary use for the current and future landowner? So for example, your landowner that built the $400,000 mansion or whatever $1 million mansion, I don't know where she built. Is it in ag zoning? Is it in, those types of questions. The purpose of setbacks, usually they're for visual, odor, or public health for some reason, or environmental health. Is the setback distance an actual effective tool for addressing the purpose? So the 100 feet setback, I'm gonna be staring right at that feedlot. 300 feet, still gonna be staring at it, still gonna be smelling it. 1,000 feet, still smelling it. Are we, what is the purpose of these setbacks? So as you look at those or ask us to look at those are things we're gonna be looking at. When considering setbacks, is it from the component itself or from the property boundary? Does this have any potential impact for opportunity for splits? So a lot of your banks and stuff would like to split ag properties. So does that impact that? Does a feedlot, and Adam kind of answered, for setback purposes, does that mean a registered feedlot? Because MPCA and our Todd County ordinance defines feedlots whether they're registered or not. It does not say it has to be registered to be a feedlot. Number 6, will this impact buildability? So buildable lots. For some lots, especially where existing ag zoning borders smaller lots in residential or shoreline zones. So maybe you have a small piece of property that you wanted to build a cabin on, but now we have this reciprocal setback that allows those parcels to not be buildable at all anymore. I don't know. All setbacks, as Adam said, are reciprocal by law. Also important to notice that we do have 2 townships that do have a residential setback, West Union and Bruce Township. West Union has a 1/4 mile setback between any feedlot and residential dwelling, and then the setbacks for Bruce increases with animal units, so 200 feet for 100 to 50 animal unit, 1/8 a mile for 51 to 100 animal units, and a 1/4 mile for 100 to 999 animal units. I also included some definitions of what a feedlot is and what a new feedlot is. Obviously, we can't impact existing feedlots. Also noting current county feedlot program or existing residential residents. Current county feedlot program practice is that feedlots maintaining a current updated registration sometimes, not very often, but with 0 animal units are considered in use. Rationale behind that, the facilities are in place, so they might have these expansive barns or manure storage areas. They're very expensive to abandon, and the feedlot owner has that option to take breaks between livestock, sell, or prepare. Whoops, I think I had a sell livestock seasonally, I'm sorry, or prepare a facility for resale purposes. So those are just a couple things that come up when we have landowners have these issues. And I don't know, you're probably not aware of all of them that come to our office from different people that ask those questions. And the first thing in the past that I've said to them is, where are you located? What zone are you in? And we talk about what was there when you purchased that property. So in this case, she didn't have a feedlot next to her, so I can see where that concern would be. Don't know if it's an ag and residential, where this property is, but that's something we need to take into consideration as well.
And I think that's the concern when she brought it forward to me was the fact of, okay, there's a group of individuals out there, of constituents that are gonna run into this situation as, the future comes down the road. And we're gonna have more conflicts. And if we don't address the conflicts, like our neighbors have, in Douglas and all them, it's just gonna be an issue. So I think we should start looking at it now and address it, because I have to agree with her, when you got a $300,000, $400,000 house, you're paying $3,000 taxes to Todd County, and you're going, what the hell, Randy? They're putting in a feedlot next to me, which never existed. And it's like, okay, I'd hate to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to bellowing cows, but I grew up on a farm. I'm not against farming.
Right.
It's just that group of individuals now, and you're seeing a lot more of that, people buying the 5 acres, the 10 acres, or even a couple acres, and building nice houses, and they're not expecting somebody to come in and put a feedlot next to them. So.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
They're taxpayers also, but they also have to be represented.
Yes, and I do think it is time we start looking at that. The reason I did ask Adam about some of these setbacks is I do know that some of those are in like R10s and, some of those things. So just respecting as we review this, all of the primary purposes. So yeah, residential zoning, those areas, they should be protected. When we're looking at ag, maybe it is a protection to ag to have that setback, maybe it isn't. So, it's like.
It's gonna go both ways.
Yes, yes.
It'll protect also the ag, but it'll also protect the individuals. So,
right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting too, I was thinking, and I'm not arguing in any way, I'm just thinking, okay, that lady sells her house someday because she's upset because there's that feedlot, but the next person wants to have a horse ranch or something. You never know, you know what I mean? So it's whatever these purposes are, it goes right back to that zoning purpose, making sure they have that right to exercise the use of that land.
I think some people are like, okay, if they have 5, 10 animals, I don't have an issue with that. It's all of a sudden when you jump from that 5, 10 to go to 50.
Larger.
You go bigger. Because now you have to store hay, you gotta store silage, you gotta store all the feed and everything, and make sure you have a good water supply and all that stuff. So, it changes.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. It's perfect timing because we would like to address the feedlot ordinance anyway, because there's a lot of inconsistencies. But we will be asking your input, everybody, on weighing those rights of each person to exercise the primary use of that zone.
This is a heavy agriculture. There's gonna be more feedlots that are gonna be proposed. One over by Swanville now. There's one in Dairy Ridge. It's not going away. So we do need to address it as timely as possible so that we can maintain a balance between those business owners and those people that wanna come up here and have a lifestyle that's a little, like we all enjoy, and so we should move this where we're gonna move it and address it.
Anybody else?
Oh, I agree, we have to look into this, you know. We've had a lot of conversations in the past, you know, where does this fit in, where does it not fit in?
Yep.
Is it something that we should be stopping, is it something we should be moving forward with? So, yeah, I agree that we should have this conversation, because things have changed in the last 10 years than what they were 10 years ago.
I think it'll help provide clarification.
Yeah, I agree.
It will, definitely. But I do want to say, from the planning and zoning point of things, at the meetings there, when they do have a new feedlot proposed, all surrounding areas are taken into great detail and consideration. They go and get letters of support, or, you know, people are against it both ways, and they do bring it forward. But, yeah, it's a good time to review it and go through it, but.
And I think there's a big difference too between a feedlot or a confined,
Yeah.
you know, feedlot with you got, you know, 2, 3, 4, 500 animal units in a confined area versus a feedlot where they just bring cattle in for a season and move them pasturing and so forth. I mean, it's how are they going to utilize that feedlot and how is it going to be managed?
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's our ordinance right now is set up on a tiered system. So the larger the feedlot gets, the greater the setback gets. And I would envision some sort of system similar to that with new feedlots if a setback were to be implemented.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those things that we've gotta be really careful about because, you know, you're gonna have agriculture zone right next to shoreland or residential, and you're gonna have a lot of lots next to an ag zone that if we put this setback too far, it will render those lots unbuildable. And if that were to happen, that could be a really bad deal for developers, landowners, things like that on the outside looking to develop a property, build houses, you know, plat something. It could be very difficult for them as well. So, yeah, it's gonna be something we have to really think deep into and take everything into consideration.
Thank you for interpreting that, because that's my, you know, like that does create conflict on the other end too.
That reciprocity is tough because if you go one way, you gotta go the other way. So if there's an existing feedlot, that setback is in effect. So we won't be able to issue building permits.
Yeah, and a variance would always be an option to apply for.
Yeah.
But what's the scenario? Each one's individually is just different than the next. So will that variance be granted? You don't know. But that is always on the table.
Right.
Yep, but again, everybody has the right to be protected
Absolutely.
within Todd County.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what would be the next way to go on
Yeah.
this?
I have a question, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind. With that, is there more information that the board wishes to see before we start getting the notices out? This will go through that normal ordinance amendment process. So township, cities, everybody will get that notice, go on a planning commission agenda, and I don't think we're having any shortage of public input on this, which is awesome. That's what we want. You want the public involved. So do we want to get to that as soon as we can, or is there more information the board would like to see before we make that decision to move it forward?
Mr. Chair, if I could add, I think the first thing is if we could each have a paper copy of the now ordinance that we are actually looking at,
Sure.
and what are the rules and regulations that are now in place.
Our existing feedlot ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you also want with that you know, where it says what's allowed and what's not allowed?
The
That's
zoning
outside
part
of
it.
the ordinance.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because that gives us a basic, you know, what we're
Sure.
starting from.
Yeah, that's no problem. That would take mere
Yeah.
minutes to put together. And I can put them on your sheets up here or email them
And
or
I
whatever you
think the
prefer.
paper part of it would be nice because,
Sure.
you know, our screens sometimes aren't big enough
Yeah.
to.
Okay. Well, I will clip that, email it, but I will also put 5 copies. So if whatever version you want, it's available to you.
Yeah, because I did share with
thank you.
the 5 board members, our surrounding counties, what their setbacks are.
Yeah.
So we all had a copy of that this morning, so.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yep.
may. And you also mentioned that, that there's some inconsistencies with the current ordinance.
Yes.
Do you have a lot of those laid out already that you know? are inconsistent with either state or our own ordinance where they don't match up. Could some of those things be
Put
laid
in
out for
there.
us?
Oh,
Yes.
like
Some of
called
us
out.
when you bring that to us,
Sure.
like say this is going to be changed
Right.
because of the
Yeah.
inconsistency. Why it should be changed would be really help us out.
Yeah.
That aren't as familiar with feedlot ordinance as maybe you two are.
Sure. Yeah, we can highlight or point things out. One of the other things that popped in my mind, not necessarily an inconsistency, but we have a large amount of requests for horses or smaller in like an R2 zone.
Yes.
So maybe that's a thing we should just look at, consider maybe that needs to be added to it's got to be minimal because residential zone, but maybe there's some allowance there to have 5 horses with a small horse
Yeah,
shack.
and you're seeing more goats, chickens.
Sure. Yep.
I mean, so you're seeing a lot of that already.
Yes.
So
Right.
it's just like,
People want to raise their own food, yeah.
Yep. And yeah, people want horses are like a pet more than a cow maybe is, and they want their pet at home, and
Rabbits.
it doesn't always allow for that. So these are all things we'll open the book and look at, and we'll get you some information here and highlight those things. But if that's sufficient, then we can get the public notice and get at least some conversation started with the planning commission sooner rather than waiting an additional month, if that's what the board wishes, or we can come back to another work session.
what's the wishes, guys? Of course, we can't make no decisions, but we can give a directive, I think.
Yeah, because it's got to go through the planning.
Get her rolling. Yep, let's get
Okay.
her moving.
All right, sounds good. I can't remember off the top of my head when our next deadline is, but it would be the January, first Thursday in January is
Okay.
when the first hearing would be for the planning commission.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Now, interesting stuff, body cameras.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
We are in need of a few items, one being body cameras. Our current state of our body cameras are pretty rough shape. We were changing batteries, and now oftentimes that doesn't solve our problem, so we're needing new body cameras. And they are quite expensive. Our initial quote from Motorola for 21 body cameras is approximately $114,000. That's not counting the server that's gonna cost between another $25,000 and $30,000. Our advantage is, this is a mandate that the state has, that we need to have body cameras, but the public safety aid has been increased to us, so we're hoping to spend that money on that, at least a portion of that. That being said, we're gonna need a few more radars and some in-squad cameras as well, but our total public safety aid is $712,940. So it's well underneath that price. So we're probably looking at a board action at some point to purchase those, to get them. If you've seen the fall of Minneapolis, you see how important those things are. And I look at them weekly, by a complaint or a question on what a deputy has done. We're kind of putting the cart before the horse because we haven't officially seen that money yet. I've been told that it'll be here mid to end of December. When that happens, you'll see that board action for those items. When we had the sheriff's conference this last week, and the vast majority of the sheriffs are upgrading their cameras and their work staff equipment with that state aid.
Okay, so that would be for 2024. So you'd order in December, this month.
My thought process was when that money actually arrives, we would order it at that next board meeting. Potentially on the 28th, we would request that on a board action. So it would be in the 2023 request, per arrival 2024.
Got it. Okay.
Mr. Chair, the funds are coming either on or before December 26th.
Okay.
And it is one-time funding. This is a one-time funding.
So
So
the
we're
money
clear.
for the hardware, the dash cams, everything will come out of this funding that we are being awarded?
Yep, this is an eligible use of those funds.
Eligible use of a grant fund, that was a grant?
One-time public safety aid from the state, $712,000.
I'm not sure how that all came to be, I know the sheriffs have been down to the Capitol. Every week, one of the sheriffs goes down there and says hi to everybody. And the issue of the request that we have to have cameras and all the other things and no funding has come up numerous times.
Yeah.
So that's what we have for today.
One of my questions would be, just if I may, you're looking at probably like a quarter of that funding, roughly, 25% of it. So you've prioritized, like, this is, you're gonna have 75% more left, so this is the one thing we gotta have.
The state mandates us having cameras, Commissioner, and so our due to the state of our current camera system, this would be priority one, liability purposes, all other reasons. There's a few other things that are pressing as well, but you're not gonna see that high of a price tag, and so that's why we're kind of attacking that first. We've got looking at 5 radars, because some of ours are out of date. And at this conference, we got to speak with every vendor in the state, comes and tries to pitch their items. And so they have fantastic deals. You buy 4 radars, you get 1 free, and that's like $21,000. So we'll be bringing that as well, but that is, the body cameras are the largest
So the
of
body
our
cameras
fund.
that get retired, do those just
They're obsolete.
recycled or what?
You can't even order the body cameras anymore.
Can't get a part
We,
for them,
we
you
can,
can't
no,
get-
there's no part, batteries is the only thing. Me and Sheriff Allen, we've given up our body cameras because we don't have any. So we're running without any.
You're not wearing body cameras.
We are not because we don't have them.
Right, I
Yeah,
understand
we
why.
physically can't
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah, so the
that's how
deputies have
desperate
ours,
we are.
and because of the staffing issue the state has, we're taking calls and are not within that regulation because we don't have that camera.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you. All right,
thanks, guys.
Looking forward for it, so.
Hopefully this is my last visit out.
Who's selling body cameras?
Okay, we wanted to just to kind of update you regarding the phased retirement and the ARPA position that we had started with through the ARPA funding. Year and a half, it's been some time, but we did promise you an update and I wanted to bring that to you before the end of the year. So this is where I'm gonna let Stephen take over, as both of these items are under his department or unit.
Yes, as far as that position goes, we haven't really fully been able to utilize it at this point. The worker that was hired in that position, I'm trying to think how long she was here, Micah.
Year?
I think it was around a year. Then she was on maternity leave and exited, and so the position has been open between, I believe, May until we filled it in October. So we haven't really fully been able to utilize it yet. It's
The
certainly
funding that
needed.
comes with the position. So I think up until this point, we did hire Ashley Gray that is in that position. She has been a tremendous addition to the department. So we continue, I think we've only used about, what did Janet say, about
$15,000
out of that allocation for the department. So it's, like Stephen had said, that unit is a tough unit. It's an eligibility worker. A lot of applications, a lot of need. We don't, at this point, looking ahead, I don't think that need's gonna go away. But we'll again come back and review that with you all as we near the end of the ARPA funding and where we stand, or look at any opportunity through a resignation or retirement. But there is a lot of work to be had. Applications are coming in.
They haven't slowed down. I would say that the tough thing to measure any results with how long it takes to get somebody fully trained, where they would actually be contributing to the state that the other workers would notice a relief, takes quite a bit of time. So that's what I mean by we haven't really been able to fully utilize it.
We talk about this a lot. We try to keep this in front of you. It is an area that has been very difficult to manage with all the change in protocol and policy. And we talk about all the different programs that come through that eligibility world. And that, one application isn't one application. One application truly probably means applications to 5 or 6 different programs in that unit. And it takes a year to train a new worker, 2 years to 2.5 to 3 years for them to be really truly efficient, if we can keep them even that long. It is not a position that gets a thank you often. It's a high stress, high burnout position. Typically when they're calling their clients or renewing some of their things, there's not a lot of appreciation from our residents, so it's been really difficult to maintain that. Eligibility workers are on a grade 6?
Grade 6.
For the work that they do. I would love to see a different compensation model, but, we'll see what Gallagher brings us this next year. So I look forward to that.
I do believe that's a big part of the turnover.
Absolutely.
It's high stress and the length of training, and then when they get to the point where they realize how much knowledge they have to have, and the compensation is not really there.
So, with very frustrated people that they work with, so.
Mr. Chair, if I could, Chris, ARPA funding, when we hired employees for ARPA funding, we put an end date to that employment, did we not?
We did, but this was one of those positions that we didn't. I think one of the only that we did not put an end date to. So that's why we had asked Jackie and her staff to bring it back. Like we initially said, just bring it back maybe once a year, just so we can revisit that need. The funds, we have to have funds spent or we return by December 31st of 2024. And the only way that we can continue the use of funds that aren't spent is if we are like obligated through contract, like if we have some construction contract or we've awarded a contract, not for continuing employment.
Okay, so that position will be ending
December
the end of
31st
next
of
year.
2024.
Okay, so
If not
that's
sooner.
definitely something that if we have to put a new employee in, which would be considered a new employee if we hire someone new into that position, correct? Because
is
it's not is existing, but not under the county umbrella, correct?
That is correct. It would be an ad.
It would be an ad.
So when we look at when we start preparing our budgets in '24 to start January 1st of '25, at this point, I anticipate asking for that position. Now, keep in mind, these positions are 50% funded through state funds. So it would be a cost of 50% county levy to support that, but we have a lot of work. We have a lot of work that, and applications that we see coming in. At this point, I do see that it will be a continued need.
Yep.
That's my guess
If I can have
also.
a follow-up question. Jackie, paperwork going, when we were down at the conference, we were still hearing of all the paperwork and the multi-paperwork, and except from the governor, he's making it better for us. But do you see that continuing? Are they gonna make it better, or are they not? Where are they actually setting at the state?
Struggling. They're struggling
Okay.
with workforce as well. We talk about systems modernization. Some of the program software that we work on are very, very, very outdated and doesn't support the work. And let me remind you of MNLARS, one change in that, how that disruption that happened across the state. There's a lot of concerns with them modernizing and making those systems interoperable. Right now, interoperability among these systems is terrible. The systems are very outdated. There's a lot of work that happens on the back end.
Yeah, the METS system, which would be the newest comparable to MNLARS at roughly the same time, has always been broken, and that's been 10 years now. But now with this new changes from CMS stating that everybody needs to be determined on an individual basis. That system doesn't support that. And of course, the older system doesn't either, but they're looking at modernizing that.
Right.
So we have no idea what that looks
So
like.
we talk about the surplus that we had last year and that they're proposing we're gonna have this year and possibly next year. That work ends up getting pushed onto the county level. So yes, I think the state can pat themselves on the back and say they've done a great job in having a surplus and saved millions and billions of dollars. But the effect that comes down to the local is insurmountable. I mean, it's what we are tasked to do because the state can't support it or won't support it, is quite shocking.
Yeah. And I appreciate you bringing this forward with the ARPA funding, realizing that within this next year of budgeting, you know, it's might be another employee we have to add.
Right, and when you bring that back through Finance Committee, just highlight that so
Yeah.
the Finance Committee is aware of that this was an ARPA-funded position, and then they can work on it from there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And you said, Chris, you said we don't have any other employees in that situation?
We do not at this
We
time.
put an end date on, I would think the first ones, we weren't so much on top of that, but towards the end, we were really consistent to putting a cap date on that employee. Okay.
So the next position we wanted to talk about was the phased retirement, which is Cindy Wardine.
Yes, Cindy retired last December and has been working part-time since then, starting January 1st. She's been, it's been wonderful. She's been able to work one-on-one with the newest long-term care worker, and I'm seeing much improvement with that as far as training goes. I wish we could do that with everybody. Of course, we can't. I mean, of course, we're always working one-on-one, but her being able to dedicate herself whenever she's here to that worker has been very helpful. She's been a great resource. She always has been a great resource for housing support and long-term care questions that countywide, you know, there's always questions from other departments that she's a great resource. So it has been very successful. I'm very happy we were able to do it.
Good.
And she's happy to stay on as long as she's needed. So.
Mr. Chair, there's a time frame that is attached to that, and I was trying to pull it up. I'm not sure if it's a 3-year or a 5-year.
5
Maybe
seems
it
to
was
come to
5.
mind, but I'm not 100% sure. 5 does seem to come to
So
mind.
there's just some different limitations with that, but it is, I mean, it's a great program through PERA that allows you to take your para benefit, but also then have that retirement working up to 1,044 hours per year
Yep, correct.
in the exact same position. You have to stay in the exact same position to do it.
And just for some education for our new commissioners, so we have a lot of new staff in that department or in that unit, which has been very helpful for those experienced staff to come back and help the new staff, as it does take that extended time to orientate and become proficient. So we were very glad. It was pretty restrictive of what we could allow a PERA retiree to come back. Age was one of them. I don't remember what the criteria was, but there was a number of things that Cindy was one of few that would have met that criteria.
Right.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Jackie and Steve? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Fran. I'll kind of let you take over.
Good morning, again. We brought this to personnel, and now we're proceeding to work session. We're requesting a registered sanitarian position for Todd County Health and Human Services. Previously, we always contracted with Morrison County, as far as I can, for at least 20 years to do our environmental health inspections. So this is for our food, pools, and lodging program, which we have a delegation from the state to do. So all of our restaurants, bars, motels, hotels, vacation home rentals, youth camps, campgrounds are all need to be licensed and inspected. So while we did the licensing locally at Todd County, we contracted out the inspection piece to Morrison County. At this point, we feel we need to bring that in-house. We have appreciated working with Morrison County, but we do think it'll give us more consistency and local control by having that position in-house. As we all know, contracts are great, but it's been challenging. Our establishments ever since COVID have struggled. As you all know, many of our restaurants and bars have struggled, and they need more oversight. There's a lot more issues we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So we think at this point it makes sense to bring this position forward. Questions?
Mr. Chair, if I could, didn't Morrison County have 2 working at one time, and now they're down to 1 sanitarian?
They still have 2.
Oh, they do still have
1.5, I believe,
Yep,
is
they have a
how they.
1.5 FTE, and they budget about a 0.5 for Todd County.
Okay.
So I believe they still have their 1.5. And I think they might be moving possibly up to full-time because of the VRBO ordinances that, and checks that they're gonna be taking on with that as well.
Yeah.
So,
And I think the individual we're looking at with his law enforcement background, it's gonna really help with, and I like the idea of having it back in Todd County.
yeah.
You know, so the local resident, yeah, you can work with the bars, restaurants, and move things forward, so.
We have to build a lot of relationships with those establishments. We have close to 200. So it's a lot of work, day-to-day basis.
Yes.
200 different.
Establishments, yep, including seasonal and year-round. And they're growing with our vacation home rentals. We have about 20 to 25 of those now. We passed an
That we know
ordinance that we know of. We have a lot more that we passed back in February 22 with planning and zoning.
Mr. Chair, that was going to be my question, and I'm sure this was discussed through personnel, but I haven't heard it through finance. So was and you gave me the number, that's what I was going to ask. So there's 200 establishments. So for bringing it back to county, was there a analysis done on the cost versus?
There was.
Okay,
There is.
because I didn't hear this through finance, and so I'm wondering, you for 20 years it was out in Morrison, so is it, was it justifiable cost-wise to bring it back here for the need and desire versus the benefit and wages that we're gonna have to pay out now? is
I
my
was gonna
question.
mention that, so thank you for bringing that up. This is a program that will pay for itself. It will support its own position.
Okay,
Yep, we
that's
have
what
a
I was-
fee schedule as was approved. We did increase that. We increase that a little bit every year. We also have, actually, that's been a profit for us for public health. So yeah, there'll be a little bit change in that. But this position also is environmental health. And so that sanitarian is in charge of our public health nuisances, our public health emergency preparedness as well. It's a nice fit with emergency management and planning for not only food, waterborne illness, but any other public health emergency like COVID. So we'll have other funding sources as well if we need to draw from those. But our revenue, and to be honest, we think will really greatly increase our revenue because Morrison County wasn't always doing the necessary fines violation billing that we expect.
The fees.
Thank you for that
Of
clarification.
course.
Good question, though.
Mr. Chair, if I could just clarify that this would be a new position. This is a position that we had graded through Springstead, which is our current class and comp study, even though we're moving to Gallagher. So going through that current process, this came in at a grade 10, and it will be posted just as any new position would.
Yeah, because for me, it's not really, I've been here too long. Because I remember when we had it in-house before we went to Morrison County. So it's, for me, it's not a new position. It's just something we're bringing back within the county.
Sure, it's a new position.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the steps are, Chris, then to bring it to the board?
Yep, so this would potentially come to the next board meeting. The board would approve creating this sanitarian position. The job would get posted, and we would advertise,
Posted
interview.
exterior, interior,
I would see at this point, I think we would try it internally first.
internal?
Yeah, we leave that to the department head to make that decision, but always internal.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And then just put the financial implications on there.
Yep,
if you would,
yep,
please.
sure will. I will put that out there.
All righty,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, Come on down.
Thank you, Chair.
Morning.
Good morning. So I asked Lauren if he would be willing to sit in on this because it has to do with bidding, and he is on the design committee as well, so he's very familiar with this project. So for the CAP grant funded solid waste transfer station project, just a little bit of review of that project. The county has $6.8 million of grant dollars that are helping finance this project. The project is basically at 95% design complete by Stantec. We submitted a permit application to the MPCA in May, the end of May. And as we've communicated with the MPCA, we've asked them for a schedule for their permit process. And basically what they said to us all along has been that they plan to have this out for public comment in December. It's December now. And so we're not exactly where they had hoped we would be. And we've talked with the MPCA a few times, and basically, I think we have a good plan, but we want to share that with you and get your feedback. So in general, what we're seeing is that they expect to have a draft permit in January. But then there's additional steps to that go beyond that, and they've always explained that to us. And what I would suggest to talk about is the idea of us advertising for bidding in January with that draft permit in hand, with the plan to award a project after the bidding process and after the public notice process. And the point for that being that we want to know, first of all, with the draft permit, we know what the state's position is. If they've given us a draft permit, that means that they've reviewed our drawings and they recommend giving us a permit. With the public notice process, we don't want to award the project without that, because we want to have a feel from that how the public feels about our project. Because essentially there's a due process here, and to get this permit, by statute, we have to have the public's input. So I cut to the chase and I didn't go around the edges much, but maybe I'll pause and see what questions you have about that.
So we're waiting on the MPCA to give us their approval. I think Commissioner Becker and I would like to get this thing out.
Yeah, I like the proposed, advertising and the opening bids. Yeah, it's just taken a long time to get that permit. It really has. When do you look for construction to start with these dates in mind?
So our desire to get the bids out soon is that it's advantageous for getting good bid prices.
Yes, exactly right.
So, and essentially, nothing can be done until the frost comes out of the ground on a affordable basis. So, we're talking May, typical construction.
That's if we can get into that winning person's schedule. I mean, it's gonna be dependent on their schedule, right? I mean, who wins the
Yeah.
Yes, you're correct. So, if the bidder decides that he wants to start in June, I don't see a problem with that. Our goal is to have the project complete by December of '25. So.
Between the draft
Permit.
I mean, are there a lot of, you said they're pretty much saying they're gonna recommend it as is. Is there any chance or risk that we then have to go back and they change something, then we go back out to rebid it again? and then,
So once they've given us a draft, and I've already received,
so confusing is the word draft, because to
Yeah.
me, that's like, okay, it can change.
right, that's correct. So the engineer that's reviewing this, his name is Cliff Shirk, and he has verbally said to me, I'm good with your application. They had another details, they had given us a review of completeness, I think it was in October, and they had some questions, and our engineer, Stan Tech, responded to that promptly and answered all their questions. So the draft permit is, the MPCA is saying, if the public has no comments that are of any value, this is how we want the project to proceed. The reason they can't give you a permanent one is because the statute says for solid waste-related permits like this, the public deserve a right to comment. So some more controversial types of permits would be a landfill. If you someone wanted to build a landfill in your backyard, the state and the legislators want you to have an opportunity, just like your conversation earlier on feedlots. They want to give you an opportunity to comment. I'll call them greenfields. When you have a new siting, that makes it even more likely that there's controversy. We've been working with the city of Browerville on this project, just communicating with them. They're aware of it. The facility is already there, so we're not putting a new facility on new property. So there's always that, the public has the free choice to object, and that's the biggest risk.
No. And Mr. Chair, I could see the public in the Browerville School District questioning us what we're doing and how it's being funded, being that they just passed the big, for their gym. So I could see that funding being brought up, but we've got the funding in place for this building, which is not gonna affect the taxpayers per se.
Right.
Yeah.
And, the message that we give to the public when we hear from them is, we're investing in the community to provide a better service for the community. And, our staff, I think, I'll speak to them, I think they do a good job of maintaining a good relationship with their neighbors.
And I think the other thing that we have to remember is just not the Browerville community, it's the county of Todd that's going to benefit from this.
So as Lauren has explained it to me, in Todd County, like most other counties, if you read the written policy, I don't think there's anything that requires us to get board action to advertise. But we wanted to, at the very least, have this meeting with you to make sure that we have your support to advertise in January. And if you want us to go to the board, we can do that too, but wanted to have this opportunity to discuss this project with you.
And I think make sure we get the county attorney involved, make sure our I's dotted, T's are crossed, and, yeah, I think the sooner we get it out, the better. We're seeing some stuff that, some boards we sit on where, we start out with an 18 stall garage and now we're down to 16 and might have to cut it down some more, and it's just like, this is the estimates that we're getting, but we haven't put it out for bid yet. So you're just kind of guessing what the bids are going to come in. So the sooner we put this thing out for bids and pray to God that the 9.4 is going to cover it.
Right.
So.
There just is the small financial risk that you may or may not have to rebid based on the comments we get.
Right.
But the potential for savings and moving the project forward far, in our opinion, outweighs that small risk. And the risk would be if the comments are crazy, the board can always reject the bids and go back. So we're not locked into the project. Can always go to rebid.
Okay.
And you can get negative comments, and the MPCA, in their review, they decide that they're not worthy of changing anything. So I would expect somebody's gonna say something.
Mr. Chair, if I could, what's, I guess, your feelings as far as bringing it to an actual board meeting to announce that we're going to go out for bids? positives, negatives.
There's no harm in that. I think just coming to the next meeting, which is now the 28th.
The next board meeting is 19th.
19th. Time flies, right? There's no harm in that. It still falls within our schedule. So, and this being more of a larger, uncommon project, it's probably not bad. It's not required, but it's not bad. Where a normal gravel surfacing project, a normal pavement one we do every year is pretty routine. This is not routine, so there's no harm.
Okay. Good, we're good.
Okay. So I'm not very good at reading between the lines. Would you like us to bring it to the next board meeting for your approval?
I think I heard a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Sooner the better.
We'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, I may say, you did very good at your presentation at AMC.
Yes, we did.
You've represented us very well.
I was gonna make the comment that he doesn't dress for us, though.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we had his tie on
yeah.
and a jacket.
Mr. Chair, on the 19th, can I request
then
that he wears a tie?
Chris, make sure you go down and see Jolene.
Okay,
That
thank
was
you,
a
I will.
message I got.
Okay,
I got tied up with Clifton now.
thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, is there anything else? I just want everybody to remember, today is the day that we live in infamy with President Roosevelt from the bombing of Pearl Harbor 82 years ago on December 7th, 1941. So keep that thought in your mind today. And with that, we are done. So thank you. And my wife, is that how you